classmates, I'd like to present Mr. Kenny Pierce. He's a retired fireman from the Los Angeles Fire Department, and he's going to talk to us today about the things that have happened to him. Mr. Pierce? Thank you.
Let me get your picture.
Ely?
Yeah. Hey man, how you doing? I'm sorry.
Good.
Take good pictures down.
Nah. I don't want no more pictures. Anyway, I'm just glad to be here this morning. This is something that I said that I wouldn't do, but it seemed like one of your students here had the guts to call my law firm, which is a very powerful law firm in the city of Los Angeles. And it deals directly with discrimination and racism. She called my lawyer, Mrs. Harrison. Well, basically emailed her because that's the way how things go nowadays. And my lawyer knows that I'm done for right now in the limelight because I pushed the issue of discrimination, racism against the department, which was probably a long time coming. It's a couple of months ago, about a couple of years ago, I was looking at TV and I was watching this guy on TV and he was being convicted of rape. And they were saying he was this and he was that. But something unique about this guy was that as they were taking him out, he was screaming and kicking. Now, a man who's convicted of rape or convicted of some huge crime, he wouldn't go out screaming and kicking. But if you're innocent, how many hands would show you're gonna go out screaming and kicking? Because you know you're innocent, especially when they talk about you're gonna get life or you're gonna get the death chamber. Come on, if you're innocent, you're gonna be screaming as the bailiffs are taking you out. Another show I saw were the young men who were at Duke University who got caught up with this stripper who claimed that they had raped her, and she said they had raped her, and then the lawyer who was involved held back important information that showed that these young men were innocent, but yet they were terminated from the school. The pictures were plastered all over the TV, and when he came out to show that he was innocent, the board for the lawyer came against him and took away his license to where he couldn't practice no more in Duke. And it showed that these young men, were innocent. When you talk about discrimination, when you talk about retaliation, nowadays it's not like in the old days in Alabama and Georgia and Texas where it used to be overt. Overt means that when I was in Texas with my family, with my father, older white gentlemen would come up and say, "Hey boy, you can't come in here." And I remember it as a young man. Do I hold it toward that man? No. I remember we go back, they used to call my mother girl. Now I was at the age of 8 or 9 or younger, but I still remember how overt it was. Now, since we have computers, since we have all type of technology, it's covert. The people who could be racist or discriminator could be a person sitting right next to you. Whether the person is black, whether the person is white, Latino, doesn't matter the color. I might if my daughter, who's young now, but if she was older and she came in with a white guy or a Latino guy, I would accept them into my house. But would they accept my daughter into their house? Would they take their daughter their son in the backyard and say, "Hey, why are you bringing her into this house?" So discrimination, overt, covert, is alive and well. I wrote down a couple of things, if you don't know, but you probably know. The Civil Rights Act came about in 1964, where it talked about race, religion, sex, national origin. In 1963, it came about where it says men and women, the equal right pay, deserve the same rate of pay as a man. especially if you're qualified to do the job. Then it came to age discrimination back in 1991, where it says that if you're over the age of 40 and you're discriminated about your age, then you can basically do something about it. But then it came about in 1991, the Civil Rights Act came and it said to provide monetary damage in case of intentional employment discrimination. When you are discriminated against, whether it's sexually, whether it's verbally, it's your duty to let someone know or tell the person who's coming against you that you don't like it. I attended Cal State Northridge, went to Crenshaw High School, attended Cal State Northridge. When I left there, I did a couple of years with the Denver Broncos. Left there, I got certified as a pipe fitter, working at the oil refinery, making good money. A friend of mine came to me and said, hey man, fire department's hiring. They only work 10 days out of a month. You can make up to $150,000 a year. If you would have came to me 3 years ago when I was working and asked me what I make, I would have never divulged it, because firemen don't divulge their salary. But we make a great salary. Our thing is you never get rich, but you make a great living for what you do, for working 10 days out of a month. LA City is probably one of the best fire departments in the world, because we deal with everything. In New York, they deal with high-rise fire. Here, you see, we just had the brush fires. Then when the rains come, then we have to deal with winter, because everybody's gonna start lighting their fireplace. So very diversified when it comes to this department. They said the knowledge that you get from this department is probably like having 2 master's degrees, because not only you have to know how to fight fire, but if you're paramedic or EMT, the EMT license that we hold is a lot higher than the regular EMT that you see driving down the street, because we're able to pronounce death. We're able to do a lot of things that the regular EMT is not able to do. Like I said, went to Cal State Northridge, paid Denver, and then I finally, after the pipe fitting, I got on with the department. As a rookie, when you come onto this department, no matter what age you are, you're brought down to almost a child, because you're gonna be built back up. And you have to have the thought process of a fireman, a thought process of that you focus on everything you do. You know, if I come up on a woman's child who's dead, stillborn, I can't be listening to the screaming while I'm doing CPR. I gotta stay focused in what I do. Even though it might hurt me, I still gotta stay focused. No matter what the mother say, no matter what the father say, I gotta stay focused. This department is a very grueling department as a rookie. When you come on, you're taught a lot of things. A lot of games are played on you, a lot of tricks are played on you. When I came onto this department, did I know about hazing? No. Do I know about retaliation? No. Most of my friends are white, yes. When I play ball, especially when you play in Denver, a lot of my friends are Latino, yes. Know a lot of women on the department, off the department, yes. So when you come onto this department, you learn a lot of stuff. Hazing has been around in this department, fire department, for many years, hundreds of years. And we know when blacks and Latinos first came onto this department, we couldn't eat with the whites. The whites had a separate eating place, blacks had a separate eating place when we came on. But through time, everything grew together to where now we eat together. And in some of the books that we have with the fire department, where it's mandatory that you eat one meal together. That means you pick lunch or dinner, but you will eat one meal together. Because everybody, you don't know if you still have someone who's still covert, who say, I don't want to eat, I ain't eating with the blacks, I ain't eating with the Latinos, I ain't eating with the Spanish, the Chinese, I'm not, but you will eat one meal together. So over time, there's a time where when you live together for 5 or 6 days out of the month, I always say it like this. I had been on 20 years, and I had, in 20 years, besides vacation, I had never been in my bed 5 days straight. Because I'm either working one day, off one day, working one day, off 2 days, working one day, so the list goes on and on. So when you're working together, guys play jokes on you. And by the way, I guess, well, he told you my name is Tenny Pierce. And I pushed one of the biggest lawsuits against the city fire department that they had. So when you're working together, guys play jokes on you. It's just as if when you pledge Kappa or when you pledge some sorority. But there are certain things that you can do, and there are certain things that you have to be responsible that you cannot do. I always put it like this, when I spoke in front of city council, if my daughter puts a worm in the bed and I feel it and I jump, can I come back and put a snake in her bed? Can't do it because it steps over the borderline, of a joke or a practical joke. I have been in a situation where when you promote to captain or promote to get off probation, we had a hazing thing in the fire department where we would take the guy, and it may sound childish to you that grown men do this, but it's always been a ritual of firemen where if this young man, what's your name, man?
Brandon.
Brandy?
Brandon.
Brandon? If Brandon just promoted to apparatus operator, where he's driving the hook and ladder truck. Well, that night we would say, while the captain's away, all right, Brandon, come on. If this is your last day here, we'd have a chair waiting for him, and he'd sit him in the chair. Sometimes if we know he's gonna try to get up and run, we put tape around his hand. Then we would go into the kitchen, and everybody brings out something out of the refrigerator. And we empty it on Brandon, everything on Brandon. Now, if Brandon says, no, hey, don't do it to me, all bets are off. We leave him alone. But if Brandon is sitting there laughing, don't care, because Brandon knows he done it to someone else, then all bets are on. And after we get through pouring everything on Brandon, we rinse Brandon off, all of us get around and we take a picture with Brandon. And when we take a group picture, and everybody, hey, Brandon, congratulations for making AO, because that's about a $15,000 increase in pay. And we know that as big as the city is, probably won't see Brandon again for 10 years because the city goes from the valley to San Pedro to past East LA to the ocean. So it's a big city. And if they send Brandon to the valley, and Brandon lives in the valley, he probably won't come over the hill because it's too far to drive. And if I live in the city, I'm not gonna work in the valley because I'm not gonna deal with that traffic. So my chances on seeing Brandon again is probably 10 years, or if we see him in a drill. But those are the things we do to initiate. There are other things as, say a fireman gets married. All the firemen will show up that you know. And then someone will, while no one's guarding the cake, will cut a little hole in the cake and drop the person in. And you'll hear the mother of the bride screaming, who cut the cake? And all the firemen will be standing in the back, probably 30 or 40 of them, and they'll, if it's at a church function, they'll be sitting back there, and they'll probably bring out their little wine, and because the crowd is here, firemen in the back, so the crowd can't see the guys in the back. But it's just a ritual that's been done for firemen over years. Well, when my situation came about, it came about when I was at a fire station off of 3rd and La Brea, where we did hazing, or whatever pranks, whatever you want to call it. Well, that was 18 years ago. And I was moved to another station at Fire Station 5 on Emerson in Manchester, right off of Sepulveda. And while I was there, we go every morning, play volleyball, have a good time, and come back to the station. Well, one morning, we're playing volleyball, and I normally don't play volleyball because of my back, because my back would be sore all day long. One morning, I decided to play with the guys, and while we were playing, there were about 5 guys on the other team who were good ball players, and we always lost against them. Well, one morning, I was playing, and my back's feeling pretty good, and I was saying, hey, you guys just keep feeding the big dog. Now, when I came before City Council, everyone knows when blacks say big dog, is it D-A-W-G or the D-O-G?
GAWG.
Most of the time it's D-A-W-G. They took it as D-O-G. Even when I see my friends, at work, when I was working, they would walk up, what's up, big dog? They don't be saying, what's up, big dog? And there's a difference. So we kept on playing. So after the game, we go back to the station, clean up, eat, leave the station. Go eat lunch. We go to lunch. I'm on an engine which houses 4 people. The captain and the engineer and one of the firemen go into the station, go into the store. Little did I know, while they're in the store shopping for mess, they decide to buy dog food. And the captain, who's the supervisor, brought the dog food to, I believe, and I don't know, because I went through 50 depositions, and I don't know if anybody's ever been in a deposition. Deposition is an all-day thing, 8 hours, 10 hours, where I went through probably about 40 depositions. And the captain had purchased this dog food, brought it to the station, and that night we were having spaghetti. So they decided to mix a special plate of spaghetti in a plate for me because I'm quote, the big dog. So when I walk in like this door, I was outside talking to a friend, my neighbor's daughter, who I owed money to for watching my daughter. Her mother worked across the street from where I worked. So we were talking, so when the call came, let's eat. I spent about 20 more minutes with her talking. So when I come in the kitchen late, the fireman meets me at the door and says, hey, your food is on the stove. And I'm like, all right, thanks. Now I thought that was kind of strange because there's a thing that we call laying short. And that's when, if you have 15 members in the station and you're cooking chicken and each member is going to eat 3 pieces of chicken, well, if you don't add it up right and you come short, then somebody's just going to get 2 or somebody's going to get 1. So what they do, they'll just make everybody's plate, put it on the stove so that everyone gets the equal amount of chicken or whatever meat, and somebody doesn't go back and eat some and he's laid short. Well, I thought it was strange that my plate was already on the stove and it was covered up with aluminum foil. So he said, it's on the stove. Innocent thing. So I walk on the stove, grab it, walk right by the captain, sit down. All the guys are walking around and started eating it. Once I started eating it, I was like, I said, this shit is nasty.
Yeah.
And I didn't think nothing about it. So it's the same thing as if you fix a plate for your child. Your child's gonna eat it because they trust what you're gonna do. Because in the fire department, there are 3 things that you don't mess with. You don't mess with no one's family. You don't mess with no one's personal equipment, because if you do and they die, it's the same as murder. And you don't mess with no one's food. Those are 3 things that you don't mess with that's been here since the beginning of time. Well, ate it once, ate it twice, and now they're all over the floor laughing. Oh shit, oh fuck. And I'm like, something's wrong here. And as I got ready to eat the 3rd one, some guy stood up and said, hey, don't eat no more. And I said, what's in my food? Now at that time, being off of 39th and Western, still ignorant, but I still hide it. You know what I'm talking about. I mean, I contain it as much as I can. So when they said, we put something in your food, they said to me, don't eat it. I said, what's in my food? They didn't divulge what was in my food, because I believe that they knew if it was 8 members in the kitchen, 8 to 7 members in the kitchen, they knew if they were to divulge what was in my food, you would have read more in the paper than what you are on the news than what you saw. Because I'd have acted a pure fool. So the guy came up and said, hey, let me make you another plate. And that confirmed that something was in my food. So I pushed it away, walked upstairs, sat down, opened up my laptop for a class, I'm steaming. They all come upstairs, hey, we apologize. And I'm saying, what's in my food? They were like, hey man, don't get mad, but we made your food out of dog food. So I was unbelievable. I was like, you did what? Now, I made a pretty decent living. I got a pretty decent house. I drive a Mercedes Navigator, big old Harley Hawk. I do all right. But when I look back at my mother and my father and the two jobs that they worked, we never had to eat dog food. No matter how hungry we got, my mother would throw turkey wings that was like, at that time, $1.50 a pack and some rice and make some gravy and we were done. So I know that I've never had to eat something like this. So when they got to complaining, hey man, we're sorry, and then they hit me with, we'll go down and eat something. And I was like, you do what? And I said, no, you don't have to eat it. And they said, well, will you forgive me? Well, I came from a forgiving family. I said, yeah, I'll forgive you, but will I forget? No, I won't forget. So they left out. I'm still steaming. 10 minutes later, the captains called me down, which are the supervisors. And I'm not gonna snitch in front of anybody because that's just how I was brought up. I'm not gonna snitch. If the truth be told and it come out, it's gonna come out. But I'm not gonna snitch them out, So because I'm still, in a different mind frame at that point. The captain said to me, time I walk in the office, hey big guy, we wanna apologize. And I said, apologize for what, Cap? He said, and he hit me with a bomb. He says, we knew the dog food was on your plate, but you weren't supposed to get it. And I was just broken. Because the firemen might do hazing, but the captains, your supervisors, you're supposed to be out of that. So they started asking me questions. Do you think it's racist? Well, why are you asking me if it's racist? And you're involved. But at the time, I did not know that the captains were involved. Because like I said, if that captain would have told me he brought it in the station, that captain's office is only about 10 by 8. And there's only one door out. It'd have been ugly. But I maintained my cool and I said, you knew the dog was on my plate and Cap, you let me eat it? Well, big guy, and they started going there. Then they hit me with, do you think it's racist? How can you think something is racist and you don't know the main players of the game? I mean, racism only comes up, like I said, it's overt or covert. Right now, they're turning it into covert because I don't know what's going on. Do you think this is racist? I don't know. I can't, I'm still trying to comprehend, what's going on. And it's the same as if I come up on a TA, which is a traffic accident, which I've been on many of them, thousands of them, and a guy's arm through the car wreck is taken off. Well, I have to do my LOC, I got to see where this guy is looking at. And if I asked him, and 99% of the time I'll say, are you okay? And they look at me and say, yeah, I'm all right. But their arm is outside the door. But I know they're not all right, but that's just a mechanism that we have in our body to always say, I'm okay, I'm all right. So the captain went on and said, we're gonna talk to these guys, but yet they didn't say their involvement, or yet they didn't tell me who was involved. So I leave and they said, well, what do you wanna do? And through sheer embarrassment, I said, I just wanna keep it here. I don't want to get out. A couple of minutes, I leave, and they said, all right, it won't get out. Go upstairs. 20 minutes later, a brother comes upstairs that I know and says, hey man, did they feed you freaking dog food? It's out just like that. And he works there, but it was supposed to be kept between us, even though I know something that huge is gonna get out. But just that quick. So it got out, started spreading all over the city, all over everything, and then finally I divulged it to a chief, and now it's out. And everybody's scrambling, and the guys are getting their story together. People are telling me that the guys are meeting together, for breakfast, but when they meet together, no blacks were involved at their breakfast, just the guys who were involved. So it just started getting uglier and uglier. And then the lies and stuff came out, and then it came to a point to where I had to say, this thing is discriminatory and it's racist. And now the retaliation is coming up because of what I reported. After I hit the city with a $2.7 million lawsuit, a guy who I thought was a friend of mine, been to my house, been everything, turned in the pictures that were 18 years old. And did anybody see the pictures on TV? You notice the pictures on TV, the pictures, if you go Google my name, it's about 1 million hits. The pictures showed me in a hazing situation, but it blacked out all the white firemen who were with me. So it just showed me. But when you open up and look at the pictures, and if you can find them without the blacked out faces, you'll see that I'm just standing there looking and laughing, Then, after the pictures hit out, now it's a major fight in the city because I have said that this is discriminatory. But now the media has gotten in it and said, this guy is a hazer, has hazed in the past too. But I come back and say, okay, I agree. I've hazed in the past. When I came on this job, did I know about hazing? No. There's an old saying that if you want to, I don't know if anybody knows it, I can't remember everything, says if you want to get along, you got to go along, thank you. Got to get along, you got to go along. If you don't go along, then they think oh yeah, he's too good to be with us. Don't trust him. And I've been there. When guys they don't trust, don't speak to him. Hey, you guys, we ain't talking to Johnson today, man. Leave him alone, dude. He's not right. Because if I go, every time I got hit with a bucket of water off the roof, if I went and told the teacher, my captain, hey, Johnson just hit me with another bucket of water. Now Johnson has to write a red letterhead, and he'll probably get 3 days off. When he comes back, he'll be saying, man, Pierce snitched me off. You know what I'm saying? So now it just changes. You have to just go along sometime. Within the perimeter of what's right and what's wrong. If I go into one of you guys' house and I see you got money in there as a fireman, I'm not going to steal your money because I know it's wrong. Has other incidents happened within the department that was probably worse than mine? You better believe it, because in the outside world, if you have DUIers, if you have rapists, if you have people coming to work drunk, well, it can happen within my department. Guys have been there before. So there's nothing different from the outside world than in the department. So they pushed it, and then they started, saying that this guy's a big hazer, and then all the guys, mostly all the white firemen were jumping on board. Yeah, he's a big, and then it's on the talk shows, and he's a big hazer. But my thing is, it's not about the hazing. I said, it's about what you guys put in my food, and you sat there and you let me eat it. And I don't know you, brother, and I don't know what part of the city you come from, but let your boy put dog food in your food.
I graduated from Gresham.
Yeah, let him put dog food in your food and let you eat it. It doesn't matter if he's your friend. You know what I'm saying? It's like, wait, you put it in my food and you let me eat it? Then it takes on a new character of you trusted this guy and he betrayed you. And that's the same thing what they did to me. I trusted for these guys to cook my dinner, and they betrayed me. Now, we can put away the dog food. Now everything is turned into retaliation, because it's not about the dog food. It's about these guys are all mad at me because I exposed the department for the retaliation for the stuff that it is. In the last 8 years, we've had all kind of, last 5 years, there's been all kind of stuff happening where when it comes to dealing with discrimination, retaliation on the department, they don't jump on it. Now, if you're in the Fortune 500 working for IBM or working for a big TV program, just like the guy who talked about the girls, the basketball girls, you know, the media, they would, the network was swift with the acts because he called them a bunch of bitches or nappy-headed hoes. And they took him off the air and got rid of him quick for what he said. And there have been other people down the road who have made, you know, said, why do blacks run fast? And this guy said, well, they got rid of him. They don't, their acts is real swift. Now, about 4 years ago, I had two buddies who work at OCD, that's the dispatch center for all of LA. They, with the dispatch, you work 4 hours on, 4 hours off. During this 4 hours off, they were in the TV room, has about 12 big old chairs, big screen TV where they can just relax. Because when you're 4 hours on, 4 hours off, you're talking the whole 4 hours, you know, everything that's coming in throughout the city, shootings, killings, death, and all that. Well, they're sitting there laughing at the program. White guy in the back seat says, and this honest God truth says, I wish you two fucking niggers shut the fuck up. They got up, turn on the light, like me and you from Crenshaw would probably do, walked all the way to the back and said, what did you say? And he said, you heard me. Repeat it. They were like, all right, we ain't gonna deal with it. They leave out, they go tell the supervisor. They didn't deal with it that day. They allowed this guy to keep working with these guys for about a week. They still didn't deal with it. They didn't relieve him from duty, which they should have relieved him from duty. And then when they finally bring the chief in, the chief is this Caucasian guy, been around for 20, 30 years, who had a history of racism, of doing racist stuff. He had, years ago, black fireman who's a rookie, was running all around the station. There was a pizza box on the floor. He saw the pizza box, but he kept on running because he's trying to get everything ready before the morning started. At the time, this chief of the captain said, hey, did you see that pizza box? Yes, sir. Why don't you pick it up? Sir, I'll go get a string. Made him wear the pizza box around his neck. First of all, being black, Latino, white, Japanese, Hispanic, whatever color, I wouldn't have put it around my neck. But he wanted the job so bad, because people want the job so bad for the days off, for the pay. It's almost like sometimes you'll do anything within reason to make the job. Well, this guy in years past, he becomes chief. So the guys who got called the N-word, guess who walks in to talk with them? And one of my boys said, Chief, not to disrespect you, but I don't want you in here. He said, you're the one who made such and such 15 years ago wear a pizza box around your neck, and I think that you're racist. And he looked, and he was like, okay, and he walked out. But my friend had the guts to stand up and do what was right. And my situation when I became before city council was, I don't care what color you are. I don't care what your religion is. I just believe that what's wrong is wrong. And if you don't stand up for what's wrong, then you'll fall for anything. Had a captain working with a young lady. Every day they working. She's a firefighter. They're working in the office together and working long hours. Well, some days she would say, "Oh man, my shoulders are tired," and she would, massage. He would massage her shoulder. No intent. I mean, no sexual thing behind that. I mean, I've been with coworkers where we'd have been on fire, and she would say, "Titty, come here, massage my shoulders for me." And I dig her shoulders in. I ain't thinking about hitting it. I'm not taking my mind there. I'm just thinking, okay. Well, this captain decides one day he comes in and he grabs her breasts.
Uh-oh.
What do you think? Next day he had 30 years on. He retired. He got out of there real quick. But he still had to deal with what he did to her, but he grabbed her breast. And what I'm saying is, she was massaging him, but it was no no intent, but it was taken to a different level. All I'm saying is that hazing is around, pranks are around, but when you take it to a different level, you have to be responsible for what you do. Who's to say that when the dog food was in my plate that I wouldn't have had an allergic reaction? If I had an allergic reaction, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to get anybody on my side, because I know I did what was right. But if I had a allergic reaction, went into a seizure, do you think they would have came clean? They would have covered it up like a cat is covering up her stuff or his stuff. That's how they would have covered it up. Because if I'd had a seizure, then that's like attempted murder.
Yeah.
So I looked at it, all the ramifications of things that could have happened. All the guys had to do letters. And all their letters they turned in sound the same. But one guy in his letter said, everybody knew the dog food was on the plate. But all the other guys' letters said they didn't know it. They didn't see it. They weren't looking. Their letters stated, I was looking at TV. But one guy had the guts to say, everybody in the kitchen knew. When all this is going on, I had to look at it as a racial situation. I had to take it to a different level. Because if you come out and you my boy and you tell me the truth, okay, if I did something to you and I come home with a black eye, well, it's because I deserved a black eye for what I did. But if I lied to you, then that's an extra beating that I'm probably gonna get. It's like my daughter, I tell you tell me the truth, we'll deal with it. You tell me a lie, then it takes it to a different level. Mm-hmm. And just tell me the truth, no matter what it is, tell me the truth. Well, the lies persisted. So they turned their letters in to the chief. Chief asked for advocates to be assigned. Advocates are like the police of the department. It's a group of guys that go around investigating huge stuff. The chief sent the paperwork to another chief, asked for an investigation. On a case like mine, that's gonna cost the city millions, you have to do an advocate investigation so that they can turn the paperwork over to their chief, so they can turn that paperwork over to the city attorney, so they can know what's happening. But guess what? Never gave an advocate investigation. The chief of my station called me at home and said, Timmy, what do you want? I said, transfer me. I want to go see a psychologist. For black people, it may be psychiatrists. Psychologist, and I want these guys disciplined. They transferred me. They disciplined those guys to a certain extent, but they did not do an investigation. And when you saw me on TV, people who did see me, my cry was not about so much the dog food, even though it was part of the pie, but it was only this part of the pie. Mm-hmm. The rest of the pie was about, why didn't you guys do an investigation? They never did an investigation, feeling that if they did an investigation, ugly stuff was gonna come out. And that was my cry the whole time. Like the Bible says, though you slay me, my cry was, why didn't I get an investigation? So, didn't get an investigation. Guys turned in their paperwork to the chief, and then went to the chief downtown, a black chief who was well known, well respected. He looked at it and said, something's wrong with this. Something's wrong with this picture. This picture is foul. I'm reading all these guys, 225, which is the red letterhead, city paper. He said, something's wrong. So he typed a letter, turned it in to Chief Pamatri. You know who Chief Pamatri is? Who was the head chief of the fire department? Chief gave it to somebody else. Do you know when the chief Pamatri or whatever the chief who they gave, who's over operations, they gave it to him, the paperwork of all the guys and all the chiefs, and then this chief had to do a letterhead. They turned it in. The chief turned his paperwork and everything, so the chief up here gets it and says, okay, I want you, I really don't like it. And the other black chief had already went off for a couple of days. Do you know they took his paperwork, they rewrote it, and signed his name. And so it came out in our depot, when we were depoting the chief, it said, Chief, is this the, they're bringing all the paperwork. Is this the paperwork that you did, that you wrote? And he looked at it and he was like, yeah, this is the paperwork I wrote. He said, yeah, this is what I wrote. He said, yeah, this is what I wrote. He says, 4 years ago, but yeah. Then he says, wait a minute. He says, well, I be danged. This is not the paper I wrote. And then he opened it up and looked at the back page and said, I be damned. Somebody then signed my name. They rewrote his letter and forged his name to make it look like he wrote something else. But the papers, the news, the TV, they never said that. All they were looking at was he was in hazing. And all I was asking for was, in the beginning, I didn't care about the money, 2.7 million. Didn't care. I made a great living. I made a good living. Did $150,000 a year, working 10 days a month, 20 days off, flying from here to there, there to here. So it wasn't so much about the money, it's about the integrity. Because blacks, females, Latino, we go through this all the time. When we go in for a job and we have the same experience as this person, but it's given to that person. Or if it's a white person who has a good resume and it's his buddy, well, he'll do the same thing. And if it's our black buddy, we'll probably do the same thing. So it's about the integrity that I was going at and saying that this is wrong. So they pushed me to saying that he's a big hazer. Radio stations, TV, this guy was always, wasn't about that. It was about the retaliation that I was not protected. And that's why I took it to the media. I brought in NAACP, I brought in the Urban League, I brought in Jesse Jackson, they didn't think that a guy from Crenshaw could do the things that I did. But I did it because what they did was not right. And, you get people who don't know the whole story, just like a couple of years ago, white captain defecated in a female's shower. And then he lied about it, and he was willing to have everybody in his station transferred because no one would ever believe that a captain was involved in it. And then when everybody get ready to get transferred, he comes out and say, hey, it was me. I came in drunk in the station. Well, the thing about this, you should have came up front the first time where guys are not back in the back bickering, say, man, tell the truth, man. If you know, tell, Had another incident a year ago where 3 white firemen, black rookie, were in the valley, going in the backyard, where they heard that a guy who was kind of crazy. They get back there, he had hung his Rottweiler through a rope way over the tree, strung his Rottweiler up, had him hanging, tied him off. The white captain, with 30 years on, says to the black fireman, if this was 60 years ago, this would have been your family hanging from there. Did they give that captain time off? No. Did they transfer him? Yeah, they transfer him. But and I know, and where your parents work and your grandparents work, that if that happens on their job, they're terminated. That is straight discrimination, racism. He should have thought about it before he said it. Other incidents that are happening around the city with one woman who was a good friend of mine had on 16 years, she was throwing a ladder with this guy and they were trying to make her look bad while the rookie's standing next to the captain. All of a sudden she says she had on 16 years. The rookie should have been doing it. But they trying to show her imperfection, her weakness. And the ladder's heavy And when we go to fires, it's a 2-man ladder. When we practicing, it's a 3-man ladder. But at this time, they were practicing making sure it was a 2-man ladder. And so after you take it in and it's a big ladder, you hold up here and it's to go up to like 3 stories on an apartment or a house, and you coming in and you look as you're at the base of it, you're like, top man up. And the top man who's in the back says, top man's up. And then the guy in the front plants it, and now you gotta walk it up. Probably about 100-pound walk up. I'm sorry, I'll stay right here. It's about 100-pound walk up. Well, he had to do it about 7 or 8 times. She says to him, hey Cap, I've been cramping all day. I'm on my period, and I done threw that letter about 10 to 8 times. My stomach's hurting. I don't care. Do it till you get it right. She goes to throw it the second time. The second time she throws it, she drops it. Blood starts coming down her leg. They rush her to the hospital. She has an emergency hysterectomy.
Oh, Lord.
They take her to the department. The department found he didn't do anything wrong. But yet the rookie, who only has on 2 months, is standing there with the captain when he should have been there. And if I would have had on time, the time that I have on, if I was standing there, I'd have confronted the captain and said, Cap, why the rookie up there? Why is she doing that? But I'm just saying that I don't care if anybody, my lawsuit ended. I think I did pretty well. But it was not about the money. It was about the injustice that was done. Because now you've turned the retaliation on me to make it look like he's a big hazer. But I'm saying, okay, I'm a big hazer, if that's what you want to say. Well, in my depots, they were like, well, is it true that you call yourself Big Dog? I'm like, well, let me see. Moses Malone called himself the Mailman. Dennis Rodman called himself the Worm. Shaq called himself the Big Diesel. I mean, the list is long. That's just the way people of color has always done it. If you know when people of color, when Latinos, when you're at a party, the noise they be making. When you're at the party with the blacks and they playing dominoes, the screaming that they be, bam, give me 50 in the poor man's britches. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I just looked at it as, you know what? Injustice was not done right, because how can you tell me you're going to give those guys days off and you don't do an investigation? If it was LAPD, an investigation would have been done by Brad, and right now, heads would have been chopped off because he don't play. But they turn it on me to make me look like I was a bad guy on the media. And that's just the gist of the story right there. And now, I'm retired. I'm in other things, and I'm getting ready to probably go back to school and get a teacher credential. But that's the legit of the story. And the story is that if you smell discrimination and racism, you got to tell somebody. The first thing they say in the books is that you got to let the person know what they said. But if it's very offensive, and it's your boss, or that they've touched you as a female in an inappropriate way, for you to not do anything is injustice to your race, to your creed, to your religion, when it's just foul. But you can't come out and just say he did something, because that's wrong, because it'll come back on you. But when something is just foul and it doesn't pass the stink test, then you got to do something about it. And did I take my family through hell on this? Was reporters outside of my house? Yeah. When I was telling a buddy of mine, I spoke on KGLH the other day. They told me there's about 10 TV trucks out front. I go out the back, and as we drive out, my buddy's driving, we come out the back, come to the light, man, they're running at my vehicle like they're insane. And I had to do like OJ's driver. Man, go through the light, man. Go through the light, because they were just running, tinny. But I just believe that I did what was right, that my kids will always know that I stood for what was right. And if you don't stand for it, with the racism that's coming out now, it's starting to show its ugly head now. Against women, against minorities, no matter what color, it's starting to show its ugly head. And you have to stand up for something. If you're young, you gotta stand up. If you're old, you gotta stand up. So that's my story. I stood up and it hit the media and, hit all over the place, and the fire department hates me, but it's okay. Because it could have been, the supervisors could have stopped it in the office right there and said, Tenny, we screwed up. I brought the dog food. I purchased it, I brought it in the state, I gave it to somebody, it wasn't for your consumption, it was probably for a joke, but I did it. If he would have came up and been frank with me and been honest with me, then I'm a forgiving guy. I'd have been pissed, but I would have probably never let it out of that station. If you would have been honest with me. But to look me in the face, knowing that you're the one that purchased it, and say to me, what do you want to do? And you know you're the one who did it, then I think that you just straight out looked me in the face and lied. I didn't find out till 4 months later when the chief called my house and said, do you know who brought the dog food? I was like, no. He says, the captains did. And I said, what? You're joking. The supervisors brought it. So the lies just went on and went on and went on and went on. But on the media, they portrayed me as the guy was like, he's a thief. On TV, on radio, he's a thief. He's stealing from the city. Now, I've never been in jail, never did drugs, didn't have my first drink of wine until I was 48 years old. And that's the honest God truth. Always been clean, went to college right after high school, but yet you label me on the news as this villain. You go through all my health records, you go through all the county jail records. Has he ever been in jail? I have 20 years on this department. I have never been written up. I have never been disciplined. On all my evaluations, it says, we'll work with him anywhere, any place. Good employee, knowledgeable, respectful to the community, certified on truck, hazmat, engine, everything. Excellent. When you look at your evaluation, there's excellent, there's satisfactory, there's, but most 99% of my evaluations are excellent. But yet, they label me as a thug, label me as a thief, label me as all this other stuff. I had to take my daughter out of school because the bus driver was playing the radio station loud on the bus, and kids were like, oh man, your daddy just got 2.7 million. Then when the mayor stepped in and vetoed it, because the vote through city council was 12-1, they came out and said, yeah. Then the pictures came out. Then the mayor stepped in a month later and said, no, we're not gonna do it. And I just kind of looked at, and I ain't gonna give no names to the mayor, but I just look at, how can you say that about me and what you were doing with someone else? I mean, I don't know how many people go to church where it says, judge not unless ye be judged. Don't throw a rock in a glass house. But you judge me, but you didn't judge yourself. Because maybe you just want to keep that fame as being the leader of the city. I won't say mayor, but that's just the way I feel about it. But that's about it. You guys have any questions? The good thing about it, I can't lie to you because I don't want you to be saying to your teacher, he lied to us. So it's the truth because I don't have to be here. Trust me.
Okay, let's take a couple of questions. All right, anyone?
What happens when you feel that you've been discriminated against and you quite can't get it to the level where you think you need to get it to?
You can always take it to a level of, you can take it to the EEOC, which is the employment.
Well, like here at Los Angeles City College, if you've been discriminated.
You can call the federal, go through the EEOC. You can take it through every job has to have some type of discrimination, office or some place you you can take it to. But there's so many levels you can take it to. But the thing about it, you only have 180 days after it happens to do something about it. And that's basically 6 months, unless you go to the courts and get something where you can take it to another, for a year, another 180 days. But have 180 days to take care of it.
So like if you're a student here and you feel one of your facilitators have discriminated, and you've taken it to the department head,
Then you can go to the federal, and you can just
and
call.
you just sitting on it, does your 180 days continue to tick if he's sitting on it and you took it to him already?
No, because then, once you take it to the federal, then they'll advise you, and they can take it a little bit further, once you go to them. But there are different levels that you can go to, in order to deal with it. And I went to every level, because since they didn't give me a investigation where the captain should have walked in the station, what they'll do, all right, I want you upstairs, you up here, they don't want us together. And then, what's your name?
Cherokee.
Cherokee, the advocates will come to you and say, if you lie for anyone or yourself, and then they'll do this. Where you live at? Oh, I live in such and such. How big is your home? How many cars you got? 4 or 5? Do you travel every year? Okay. If you lie, you will be terminated. And if you're terminated, you will not get your retirement. Whenever you're terminated, you won't get your retirement. Do you understand? I'm sorry, I ain't lying for nobody.
Right.
Yeah, she did it. I saw her steal it. The diamond was on the thing. Yeah. Because if I say, no, I didn't see her do it, and then she, in her investigation, she says, well, yeah, Tenny was there. He watched me take the diamond. Then I'm terminated. So that's where the advocates come in, because they're going to find out who brought it, who paid for it at the store, who picked it up off the shelf, who bagged it, who carried it into the fire station, who took it out of the bag in the fire station, who opened up the can, who dumped it, who turned on the skillet to cook it. I mean, you see what I'm saying? They're going to go right down the line, and everybody's going to be involved in it. So now you can't say that you didn't know, because if Joe Blow said he didn't know, they said, well, wait a minute. Didn't you open the can? So everybody, advocates bring it all out, but they did not give me an advocate. And that was the biggest fight that we have. Why couldn't this guy get advocate? Because they didn't want it to come out. And then in the depots, and I'm in closing, in depots, the captains, when they got depoted by the city, said that they didn't tell me that. And when they said that, I stood across from them and looked at them and said, how can you guys sit up here and lie with those bugles on your lapel, and you sit up here and lie after they sworn you in? But in closing, I hope you guys don't scream with this one. And I'm done after this. In closing, do you know the captains are suing the city for reverse discrimination? Thank you very much.
Okay, wait a minute, I think they had another
Go ahead.
question over here.
Would you recommend anybody else doing firefighting? Or no?
Yeah, I would, because now new laws are laid down because of my situation. It's new, they now if you say something, you will be terminated. Now if you do something that is racist or discriminatory, you will be dealt with in an ugly way. Go ahead.
Do you feel that what you've been through has done a lot to raise the consciousness, to raise the awareness of the average rank and file fireman? Are they aware of what they did, in other words?
No, you know what?
No.
They're not aware because it's a closed boys club.
Yeah.
Because I believe 80% of the whites don't like me. The blacks still like me because they say, it was just right. But the whites will say, oh man, even the guys who don't know me, just like if we talked about this young lady and somebody said, yeah, man, I saw her kissing some guy down the hall. And then I go and say, yeah, did you know, what's your name?
Elena.
Elena was kissing somebody down the hall. Now, even though I didn't see it, I just jumped on the bandwagon, believed that Elena was kissing somebody down the hall, not knowing it was her brother. She was just kissing on the cheek, goodbye. But I jumped on and that's how everybody started jumping on the bandwagon. People calling on the radio station, yeah, I used to work with Pierce. And then the radio guy said, well, where'd you work with him at? He said, at fire station 62. And he said, where is that at? He said, in the valley. Well, 62 is over in West LA. But that's how but people like you who don't know where it's at will believe every word that they're saying on the radio station. Yeah, he was this and he was that. But yet, we could have took it to court, we would have won. But if we would have won big, we know that they would have appealed it for the next 10 years. Do you bail out or do you stay in it for 10 years and lose everything you have? Got to bail out? Go ahead.
Has the situation changed your outlook on taking?
Yeah, it has. It has, because I feel now that each of you guys, when you go, if you're in the working world, when you go to the working world, trust me, when it comes to something that happens in the workforce, you will sell each other out to protect yourself. And sometimes we get into stuff that we shouldn't even be in. If it happened to Atlanta, and I know Atlanta, I'm off of it. You know what? I don't know what happened. I can't talk about it because it ain't me. I'm not going to be like, yeah, she was doing this and she was doing that and she was stealing and she was doing that. No, I'm out of it. But you get a certain people who want to be in it who don't know the whole story. And like I said, a lot of firemen don't know the true whole story. They only know what they hear. Did you have a question? No.
So you had the struggle with the captain, so did he lost his job?
Please say that again?
Did the captain lost his job because
Did he lose his job, the captain?
No, they didn't lose their job. They gave the captain, the guy who put it in my food, they gave him 3 days off.
Oh, my goodness.
The captains, they gave 30 days off.
And this is without pay?
Yeah, but that don't mean nothing.
Okay.
Because with a firefighter, one overtime day, 24-hour day is like $1,100, $1,200. So what I'll do, if they tell me next month, we're gonna discipline you to take your days off, well, I work every day I can.